What is going on YouTube? Joe here with Cullination Media, and welcome back to another episode of CM Strats. And today, we're going to be taking a look at the Durant set that you've seen me use on the channel quite a few times. If you're a new subscriber, you probably haven't seen me use it because I think it's been almost 2 months maybe since the last time I've used it. A link will be in the description below if you would like to see the Durant in action and put in a lot of work, and the people that have been around for a while have been suggesting that this get its own video for a while. A lot of people have been suggesting it, so I decided to go ahead and do that. I have a couple of other suggestions that I'm going to be getting to in the next couple of videos because there's been some recurring ones there. If you have a suggestion, a different one or whatever it may be, feel free to put that in the comment section below, or you can go ahead and hit me up on Twitter or whatever it may be. I try to tally all those suggestions and then pick from there. As always, I do appreciate it when you guys leave a like on the video. It really does help out a lot. Lets me know that you're enjoying this type of content. You want to see more videos like this. If we get a lot of support on this video, I'll try to crank out these episodes more often. The reason that it's been a little bit scarce as of late is just because these take a lot of work, a lot of preparation to figure out, a lot of different things and make sure that I'm actually having decent talking points and giving you good advice, because the sets I use aren't always the best sets, and I want to make sure that you guys aren't misinformed, because that's just not good. That's not what the point of these videos are. Alright, so that's enough nonsense talk. Let's actually get into the set here. We have our beautiful Durant, who resides in the RU tier yet again, like he did last generation. The set that I use is pretty straightforward. Hustle-Hone Claws is an incredible combination, so that's what we're using here. The ability Hustle, for those of you that don't know, basically it increases your power output for physical attacks, but it decreases your accuracy. So Hone Claws is a perfect little, way to get around that, basically, because it increases your attack and your accuracy at the same time, so you can mitigate that missing problem and essentially give Durant a nice little pair of glasses to use. Alright, so a jolly nature obviously is preferred here because Durant is actually pretty fast. His speed is up over 100, which is kind of a lot for an RU Pokemon, you would think, and for a Steel type of all things. Steel types usually are not that fast at all. But yeah, jolly nature to make sure you're outspeeding things, so that's pretty straightforward. I guess you could go adamant, but I just like jolly better. That's just what it is. The EVs are pretty straightforward as far as the ones that I use, and I should probably reiterate this, but like I always say, these sets are not necessarily always the best sets to use. They're not always the recommended sets, whatever that is. Sometimes there's better options. It's just what I like to use and what I've seen success with, so just want to throw that out there. Just before we get too far into this. Alright, so the EVs are pretty straightforward. It's very standard, 252 attack, 252 speed. I throw the last 4 EVs into special defense because Durant actually has poop special defense. It's like base 45 or something absolutely just disgustingly bad. He actually has pretty decent natural physical bulk, believe it or not, so I guess it's up to you what you want to throw that extra 4 EVs into. It's really not that big of a deal whatsoever. As for the item, there are a couple of options that are viable for Durant. You could go the Choice Band route. Obviously, that's not what this set is. Choice Band does work pretty decently. I would stick with that jolly nature, though, if you're going to do that. Lumberry is what I like to use. I'll explain that in a second. And then Life Orb is another one that could be useful depending on the type of set that you're going to run. Now, as for me, I like the Lumberry because I like to come in and set up on things that would try to burn you. Things that love to spam Scald, things that have Willow, things that maybe just throwing T-Waves, maybe throwing T-Waves all over the place. Durant can come in, get up a free Hone Claws, and then just start destroying things with Iron Head and Stone Edge. And the other thing is, as we're getting into the moves here, Stone Edge is very, very risky to run on a Pokemon that has Hustle. Most of the time you see them run Rock Slide for accuracy issues, because having an 80% accuracy move with Hustle and without having a Hone Claws boost up, you're almost never going to hit it. So Rock Slide could be an option over that. And I'm kind of just jumping all over the place here, in case you guys haven't noticed. I haven't recorded one of these in a while, so apparently I'm just going to jump all over. Alright, so let's take a look at the moves here. We have the Hone Claws, which is the crux of the set. It increases your attack and accuracy. Like I said, it allows you to hit more often and with more power. And like I said just a few seconds ago, I would not even dream of going for a Stone Edge if you don't have the Hone Claws up. Otherwise, it's just a ridiculously low chance that you're going to hit. and then you're just kind of banking on luck, and I don't know, I wouldn't put too much into that. So we have the Hone Claws there. That's the main move of the sets. Then we have Iron Head, which is the steel type stab, and it also has a nifty little chance to flinch, which comes in handy because, you know, Durant is actually fairly fast, as I mentioned before. You could put X-Scissor on this set somewhere, or even in place of Iron Head, because, you know, offensively, steel typing isn't the greatest thing in the world, but I like Iron Head. Then we have Stone Edge, which is, for me, essential to take out fire types. People love to switch in fire types on Durant. I don't know why, because it gets Rock Slide and Stone Edge, and I feel like that's a fairly common thing to carry, but people just love to bring in fire types. And even after you KO something, people will just switch in fire types. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Durant has decent speed, and if you have a Hone Claws up, Stone Edge will pretty much KO any fire type, just about, as long as it's super effective, of course. I'm not talking about Ember or things like that, but yeah, Stone Edge is a great move to have, but it comes at the downside of having to have that Hone Claw set up. You can't just come in and go for it. I mean, I guess you could, but that's rolling the dice. And then last but not least, we have Baton Pass here, which is fantastic to pass those Hone Claws boost to, you know, whatever Pokemon you would like to pass it to. And that's pretty cool because, you know, passing boosts is always nice. Unfortunately, there's the whole Baton Pass nerf thing that just happened recently. It's not really recent, but several months ago. So you can't have a team full of baton passing shenanigans, but it allows Durant to escape in some cases and pass boosts. And you never know. You can, I don't know. It really depends on team building. So if you don't really have something that you would want or are able to pass Hone Claws boost into, then I would advise switching to a different move. And I'm going to go over a list of moves that I think are that should be on that list if you want to replace any of these. Rock Slide obviously would be the top of the list to replace Stone Edge, but there we have it. All right, so I'm going to go over some before we go over the moves that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to go over some just some partner and team building things here. First of all, when you have Durant on your team, Stealth Rock users are very, very useful. And it feels like I say this in just about every one of these episodes. They're like, oh, you got to use Stealth Rock. You got to have entry hazards. That's really important. It really is, especially because this is somewhat of a sweeper set. You could use it as a wall breaker. It's got a lot of versatility. But making sure you're getting rid of those focus sashes, making sure you're getting rid of those sturdies, and just putting Pokemon into range of, you know, getting KO'd in general is really, really important. Especially if your opponent is like, oh yeah, you know what, I have Moltres on my team, I'm just going to switch that in and win, basically. Stealth Rock really makes them think twice about that, and they have to play around it, try to get something into Rapid Spin, and it's a whole big thing. The two ones that I would point out in particular for RU and for teammates for Durant would be Druddigon and Rhyperior, because they're both fairly bulky and they can take fire type attacks that would be aimed at Durant. So if somebody comes in with a Moltres and you don't have the rocks up yet or whatever, you can switch in Druddigon and you can switch on Rhyperior. It can take those fire type hits most of the time. So that's that. The other thing is, on the other side of that, you don't want hazards up on your side of the field, because Durant could be switching in and switching out somewhat often, especially if you have Baton Pass, you know, on the set, because you switch out, you know, you pass your boost along and you want to come back in later and possibly set up for yourself or whatever it is. You don't want Durant taking all kinds of damage. It doesn't have a lot of HP. Its special defense is poop, so it's not going to take hits that well. So I do suggest using a Rapid Spin user of some kind. Kabutops and Hitmonlee come to mind for RU Pokemon, just because they both also have access to priority in Aqua Jet and Mach Punch to be able to finish off either Choice Scarf users or faster threats, things like that. So Hitmonlee and Kabutops also decent teammates. Kabutops gets a special mention because it also quad resists fire, so that is always helpful. Then we also have cleaners. So once Durant punches a giant hole in your opponent's team, which I know Durant can sweep on its own, but a lot of times I found a lot of success using it just as a wall breaker, which seems kind of silly because setup and wall breaker aren't always the same thing, but that just turns out to be how I've used it and how it's worked for me. Not necessarily on purpose, but that's just how it's, you know, played out in matches. You want something that after Durant, you know, inflicts a ridiculous amount of damage to things, you need something that can come in and finish the job. So things like Delphox, Swellow, I know Swellow is NU, and Jolteon specifically, very fast Pokemon. Delphox is a common choice Scarf user. You've got Jolteon with that ridiculous base 130 speed that can come in and just finish off weakened threats. So there's that. And Swellow is kind of a wall breaker in its own right with guts and all that stuff. But these are just fast Pokemon. Swellow also has quick attack, so priority is a thing. There we go. So cleaners. And there's a lot of them in RU that you can pick from, so I'll just leave it at that. Those are just my examples. And then last but not least, type synergy. Something that can resist fire-type moves is an absolute necessity when you're bringing Durant, because especially in RU, fire-type Pokemon are fairly common, and in a lot of cases in these lower tiers, and by lower I mean anything below UU, a big reason why these Pokemon have dropped down is because of their weakness to Stealth Rocks, which means fire-type Pokemon are kind of all over the place. You need something that can take on fire-type Pokemon. You need something that can take hits from fire-type Pokemon. I mentioned Druddigon and Rhyperior earlier as good Stealth Rock users. Alomomola is okay, but special attacks really kind of poop on it. Jellicent is a great partner, and so is Slowking. Slowking can take on a majority of the fire-type Pokemon in the tier, like Emboar and Delphox and things like that. So Slowking, really good teammate in RU. Alright, moving on, we actually have made very good time. I've kind of touched on almost all the points that I wanted to. Last but not least, I want to go over some of the different moves that you could substitute if you don't really like this set, or if you don't really, you know, agree with Stone Edge, or you don't want to have Baton Pass because you already have a Baton Pass user or whatever. There's a lot of different options. First of all, Durant has another stab that you could be using. X-Scissor. It doesn't have the best coverage in RU because there are ghost types, there are fire types, things like that. But X-Scissor does a lot of damage, and you never know. Maybe you're using this Durant in higher tiers. Maybe you're taking it on Battle Spot. I don't know. X-Scissor, you know, you get the stab boost. It does a lot of damage. It's just as good as Iron Head. So you could use that. I mentioned Rock Slide over Stone Edge as a possibility to reduce your reliance and, you know, dependence on Hone Claws. But there's a couple of other ones. First of all, Crunch is great. It's a great option because Dark is much better this generation as far as coverage is concerned. And of course, Ghost types resist X-Scissor, so you know your opponent is predicting that. Even if you don't have it, you can nail them with a Crunch, and that allows Durant to defeat most of those spin blockers, so that is pretty cool. Then we have Superpower, which, because in RU, Registeel and Cobalion are kind of all over the place. It's unfortunate because I don't really like either of them, but unfortunately, nobody consults what I like. So maybe you don't like them either, I don't know. But they do resist the stab of Durant, and they resist Stone Edge as well. So, in Cobalion's case, Crunch is not going to be doing much. You just give him a free Justified boost. And Crunch really isn't going to do anything to Registeel either. Let's be real here. Registeel is a tank of all tanks. Superpower is great for those two. I really wouldn't recommend it for any other reason. But it is a great way for Durant to be able to handle some seal tips like those. And then last but not least, if you're having problems with Pokemon like Quillfish, Poliwrath, Pelipper, and even Jellicent, but not all of those Pokemon are common in RU. Quillfish is an NU Pokemon, Poliwrath is, I think, PU, Pelipper is down there as well. Jellicent is RU, obviously. It doesn't matter where they are, you could run into them, you don't know. You just don't know. If you're having trouble with those types of Pokemon, Thunderfang is an option to take them out, because otherwise, you know, Quillfish and Poliwrath, Pelipper, Jellicent, all of those Pokemon actually resist your stab. So you'd have to rely on Stone Edge for something like Pelipper, but you could run the Thunderfang, and, you know, while it takes them out, I believe to get the KOs that you need, I think you would have to run the Life Orb, and I'd have to run Calx to be positive on that. But if you're gonna run something with such a weak base power, because it's like base 65, I would definitely recommend the Life Orb in that instance. So there we go. Alright, those are the main moves that I wanted to go over. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, if you have a suggestion for Pokemon you would like to see, has to be a Pokemon that I used, of course. So if you've been watching, some Wi-Fi battles or showdown sessions over the last couple of weeks and you saw something that stood out to you and you would like to hear an explanation of it and, see some more details about it, feel free to put that in the comment section. I'll take a look at all of them and I'll just pick out a couple of things that you guys suggested and record some videos on it. So with that being said, like I said, did I really just say that back to back? Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video and I will see you all next time. But until then, game on.